Hey everybody, welcome back to Spiritual Devil. I basically rebranded this page, mostly because people had tuned out. In a lot of cases, everything that we're being faced with is filled with imagery. And this imagery is something that we can either appreciate for what it is or become judgmental about. Just as an example, in my line where I work a lot with nature and wildlife and things that I cannot possibly predict that I would be seeing, in my line, I run into creatures that some people are not as pleased by. Just as an example, if I showed some kind of image of a snake, some people may become offended and say that this is not an acceptable image. And they'll oftentimes use an excuse saying that that is the animal that was listed as the bringer of the opposite of peace in the good book. Now, if all of this imagery is something that we're supposed to take at face value, then the imagery of us feeling like we're superior enough to judge one another is something that we need to also fix in our mind. And in order to do that, sometimes a story has to be told in just such a way that someone can actually understand the words that are being said. So on this channel, especially for this series where I was talking about regaining my health, the videos are kind of out of sequence because I didn't know if I was going to start the videos on the first Monday of September or the first weekday of September. And so I made some errors in the videos that are currently being shown. However, if you pay very close attention to what's being said in the videos, like where I talk about situations like, let's say, holy water being taken at a face value of being evil, if you evil enough to refuse anyway as a gift, if you take and listen to some of the segments where I've been talking about being judgmental towards life and seeing how some people recoil at even the simplest imagery or sounds of nature, whether it's a bumblebee or a spider or a turtle or whatever, you can start to see that I'm painting a picture of a broken conversation when it comes to what it is that we act like towards one another. If someone sends an email and it just isn't worth the time to read, for an example, that's the same as someone sharing a poem or a picture or songs, and they're just not worth taking the time to listen to actually hear the words to. These are all things that, to me, express a breakdown in communication. The fan overhead just turned on. So, like I've said in the past, there are certain coincidences, synchronicities, where something in this story is talking to you. And because it's talking to you, it's up to you to either decide to put out the conversation or to put that conversation out there. You know, it's up to you, the person who has received this, to deal with whatever comes next. If you're feeling like you have shortchanged someone in terms of your responsibilities, then perhaps you have, and it's up to you to put things right again. So for right now, I've got my phone off, and I'm going to keep it off until we have some better communication. It might sound counterintuitive, turning the phone off to have better communication, but at the same time, I've said everything I can possibly say here. You know, I mean, literally the tears roll out of my eyes, you know. It's like, I can't quite express things enough with enough emotion for some reason to have the words be understood. And so I can only stand to, and I am standing, I can only stand to reason logically that some of us are under the power of something else. And some of us are simply aware of that something else, and we're able to work around it. So with all of these possibilities of conversation that include words that are synonymous with business, such as workarounds, obstacles, challenges, and all of that, I would like to re-emphasize that I recently showcased some anomalies in the activities of the bears of Big Bend National Park, one of my favorite places in the world. And those anomalies were directly related to climate-related challenges. And the reason I'm standing here talking passionately about this is because who else is doing it? Who else is talking about these things that we recognize as true and actually trying to figure out, how do we change our tune? How do we change our tune and sing a different song together with one another? So the way that I'm trying to capitalize on this is, and I say that with intent, the way that I'm trying to capitalize on this, because I've been advised by all of my peers that this, money is everything. According to people who have been close with me in the past, money is everything. I literally heard someone say that. I've even heard people say out of their own mouths that plastic and guns are necessary to live. Neither of those is a life-giving tool. Now, sure, some of the inventions that we've made can save life if used properly, but when we really think about what it is that we're doing with one another, the first thing that we need to pay extreme attention to is how we're treating one another. And if people are going to continue to reach out and just take, well, guess what? That's not what this world is all about. That's not what life is about. Life has nothing to do with money. Everything that I'm doing is for investment purposes. I'm investing my time in you and in myself, Have I had shortcomings? Of course I have. Haven't we all had shortcomings? So this story is talking about a lot of things, including the possibility that how you receive the message directly translates into how successful I am. So with that in mind, you have to understand that I'm being very stern. Like as if I have some kind of authority on a subject. The subject that I have the most authority on in my own circles has to do with wildlife. Most people know me because of nature. And it's in my nature to observe the wildlife. Everything else is just circumstantial, even the plants. However, I've noticed many variances in the plants that have occurred because of some of the weather patterns that we've experienced collectively. And we can all talk about these things openly, especially on these open forums right now, while there's an opportunity. However, that doesn't mean that this has stopped any of my work. All of my work has continued to move forward in spite of being earmarked by many to do things that take up my time. Recently, I've had a number of invites that I've had to decline, And as I said, I turned off my phone. That's what this is about. You're listening to this to find out what's going on. What's going on with this person who's changing their page, who's changing their image, who's changing their tune. What's up with this person? All you're seeing is a reflection of yourself. Maybe you're changing your own tune. And maybe it's up to you to backtrack and listen, really listen and pay attention to what's been happening around you and to figure out what you can resolve. In many cases, we can only resolve what's going on internally with ourselves. With me, I have had extreme challenges communicating with people who I know. They don't seem to know me. They can't resonate with me. They don't seem to have any consideration for me, which is fine. This channel is called YouTube. I'm talking about myself. You can talk about yourself on your own YouTube channel. You can put it into terms that you want to capitalize on, whether that's money or something greater. It's up to you. But the things I'm saying here, the observations that I'm making, look it up. All of this is documented in a video format so that you can see. All you have to do is watch my last music video called Anyway, and it talks, it shows, it doesn't even talk. For the whole first half of the video, it's just nothing but the footage of these bears that were gathering due to a drought-related condition, due to circumstances that have escalated to a point where some of our leadership might want to learn to sing a different song, might want to learn to communicate better. Perhaps that's all I'm here for, is to help someone to have the communication that's necessary in order to finally hear a song and stop, avoiding the actual part where we sit down and listen to something and hear it like for the first time, for real. Maybe that's all I'm here to do. So in your life, whatever I'm here for, you have to answer that question if you're watching this video. If you watched it and you're like, man, this guy's passionate, mad, upset, insulting, any of those things, you have the absolute freedom to click on the comments area and input that information. I'm not going to get offended because, quite frankly, all I can do is explain the truth to you. If you got offended because you think this is personally addressed to you, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Chances are, since this is on a public forum, the reason that I'm sharing this publicly is because I believe this is a public challenge. Communication, I mean. So, if you feel like you've had trouble communicating with people, I assure you, you're not alone. You are not alone. You just have to find a way to patiently bide your time. I've done it by making music. I think the songs that I've uploaded even include titles such as Biding Time. If we can bide our time patiently and effectively working towards what we know is coming, and if we know old age challenges are coming, we might want to challenge ourselves in the opposite direction of aging. If we know that there's a lot of cleanup to be done, we might want to start by staving the flow, stopping the flow of whatever it is that needs to be cleaned up. Fasting, stopping. Maybe if we recognize that some people are not receiving any kind of a windfall and some people are having a deluge of water, maybe we can collectively think about these things with some kind of absolute compassion, like it's really happening. In the videos that I shared recently, you see I'm aiming my camera, this phone, at what I'm watching in front of me, which is some bears about to have an experience. And then you see the energy changes because someone rushes up to me and says, look, this is what I saw. We're not even paying attention to what's in front of us. even when it's happening live and a circumstance so powerful is occurring that it might result in an actual fight. We are not paying attention to the escalations around us. And that's because we have put off the supposed escalations that we would have if we communicated with even just one of our fathers. And where are they? Do I sound passionate about that? Is it because of the things that I've told on my story here? I don't know. You'll have to look at the past in order to figure that out, unless you know me personally, in which case you should easily be able to hear all of the words that I'm saying. Our communication is incomplete because we have not paired up together to effectively communicate with the people who we love the most. That's my message. That's all I'm trying to say. Until next time, I hope you understand what I'm saying, and I hope this makes sense. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.